I have been driving this 2025 Kia EV6 GT line all-wheel drive in Wolf Gray for the last week. And in today's video, I'm going to give my honest thoughts on this Kia EV6. This is the refreshed version for the 2025 model year. And this is the first time I've spent any amount of time in an EV6 that wasn't the GT high performance version. So it was a long time coming. So let's discuss everything about the EV6. So as most of you know, Kia EV6 is basically Hyundai Ioniq 5's sibling from their sister company, Kia. Technology-wise, the Kia EV6 is basically identical to the Ioniq 5. Same battery pack, same powertrain, same safety features, same heads-up display, same software, but there are a lot of things that make this car very different from the Ioniq 5 as well. Different wheelbase, different paint colors, drastically different styling, both front and rear, different height, and because of the sloping roofline, different cargo capacity. So base specs. 320 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque. That spec has not changed for the 2025 model year. That carries over. What doesn't carry over is the battery pack. 84 kilowatt hours now versus 77.4 kilowatt hours. And that is going to lead to another 20 miles or so of range. And that is very welcome. The top trim all-wheel drive versions of these cars are definitely not class leading. A lot of that has to do with the big 20-inch wheels that they choose to put on. I personally would omit these if I could. So this EV6 is rated for 270 miles of estimated range in mixed driving. It should be mentioned if you get the GT line rear-wheel drive, it's rated for 319 miles, which is really good. The Wind all-wheel drive is rated for 295, so pretty significant difference with those 19-inch wheels versus these 20s. Now, in terms of what I've been getting for efficiency, you can see since I picked up the car, I've done 470 miles, averaging 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour. I did take this car on my standard efficiency route up 95 towards Portsmouth, New Hampshire from Boston. And yesterday, it basically matched identically to my 2025 Ioniq 5 limited all-wheel drive at 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So for the top end version of both these cars, they're basically identical. This paint color is Wolf Gray, and on the interior we have Saturn Black, I believe it's called, with kind of this contrasting edge material on the seat and down the center, and then on the door panels and the steering wheel. But we'll get into the interior later. The car has a lot of gloss black plastic on it, mirror caps, A-pillar, B-pillar, C-pillar. It's almost like it has a floating roof because of all that blacked out section. You can just see that thin line of gray. It leads to a pretty cool look, in my opinion. The EV6, I think, is a pretty nice looking vehicle. You've got body colored wheel arches, which look really good. You don't have the cheap looking black, gloss black along the bottom there. Just like Ioniq 5, you do have the pop out door handles. One of the EV6's hallmark design features is this kind of floating section here that has a little LED light underneath it. Looks really cool at night. It lights up this whole rear haunch. Just really makes it very distinctive looking. That light's not on when you're driving the car, but when you walk up to it, illuminates. Looks really cool. The rear end has been redesigned for 2025. I think the rear end looks pretty good. It's not as a drastic change versus the front end, which we'll look at in a second. I think it works. You kind of have this gunmetal trim that runs along there with this kind of pyramid-shaped features. Kind of looks cool. Now, other than that bigger battery pack, this is the next biggest change, and that is they switched to the North American Charging Standard, or NACS charge port here, to allow unfettered access to Tesla superchargers. And you'll also notice the big change, it's now on the driver's side of the car. So for the 2021 through 2024 Kia EV6, it was located right here. But because most version 3 Tesla superchargers are designed to work with Teslas, whose charge port is on this side of the car, they relocated it. And it's really nice that they did. You're not going to have to take up 2 stalls at a busy version 3 supercharger. You're not going to have people giving you the stink eye. All around, I think it was the right decision. Now, what isn't nice about the NACS port, and Kia, you guys should really be ashamed of this, is they are not providing a CCS to NACS adapter with the car. They give you a J1772 to NACS adapter so you can level 2 charge it. Of course, the EV6's hallmark LED brake light there, looking really cool. I really like these wheels that they have on the new EV6. I think they look nice. Just wish they were 19-inch. Of course, being a higher trim, you have the 360-degree surround view camera system, camera in each side view mirror, obviously the backup camera, and then one in the front. And now that we're at the front, this is the most drastic change for this mid-cycle refresh. All new front end lighting, new bumper. But when this car was first unveiled, it drew a lot of ire. People really didn't like the choices that they made with the refresh here. Now that I've seen it for a few months now, seen it in person a few times, lived with it for a week, I actually think it looks pretty good. It's very distinctive. You're not going to see anything else with such angular lighting like this on the road today. All of Kia's EVs now have very cool front end lighting. I think they're really trying to make distinct looking cars, and they definitely achieve that with this refreshed EV6. I actually like it now. Some of you are going to hate me for that, but it's grown on me. Sorry to say. Here's the key fob for the car. I really do like the feeling of it, but the buttons are all almost impossible to feel. I just really don't like that I can't find the buttons when it's in my pocket or when I just even pull it out. I kind of have to look at both sides to determine what I'm looking at. So in that sense, not a big fan of the key fob, but I barely use it because I just have it in my pocket. I walk up to the car, it unlocks the doors, and I get out and go on my way. Sticker price on this Kia EV6, just under $59,000. I think it's $58,900. So it's more or less exactly the same price as a Ioniq 5 limited all-wheel drive. Now both the base model EV6, small battery rear-wheel drive, as well as the base model Ioniq 5 small battery rear-wheel drive, both start around the same price, around $42,500. So let's head into the trunk so you guys can see what cargo space looks like in here. But you can see cargo capacity is pretty good. You are limited a little bit more vertically because of that drastic slope. But you do have a little bit of underfloor storage. The subwoofer does live under here, I believe. So you could store some things in here. And then if you pull this up, tilt that, you can see there is a little bit more space back there. You could put a level 1 charger or something. The car does not come with one. So Kia really cheaping out on the accessories you get with the car, which is pretty unfortunate. This GT line does come with the cargo cover for hiding your goods back here. And that is 2 positions, so you can have it here or you can have it up there. Behind this panel is where you can install the automatic door locking device on your 2025 EV6. I was able to confirm that it does work here, so you can check that out at ioniqguy.com so that your doors on the car will automatically lock when you shut them, because they do not do that from the factory. Basically all you do is pull that cover off, plug it in, and boom, it's activated. Something I do really like about the EV6 is how high the hatch opens. I'm 6'2", so I have issues with my Ioniq 5 sometimes where the hatch just doesn't open too much, and I can come pretty close to clipping my head on the corner on that sharp edge right there. But here in the EV6, I got tons of space. I don't have to worry about hitting my head. It does seem to be a little higher than Ioniq 5. Another thing the EV6 gets right that the Ioniq 5 does not is releases for the fold down seats in the trunk area. So you pull that, flip it down, pull this one, they flip down, they lock into place, and then you can just load from the back. You don't have to go around to the sides to do it. But if you were already at the side, you could do it from the back seat as well. And then you do have some cargo tie downs. You've got an LED light back here. It's only on one side, not on the other side. And then because the car doesn't come with a spare tire, you do get the tire mobility kit, which is an inflator and a can of Fix-A-Flat. That's about it for the cargo area. It's decent, but it's not great. And then, of course, looking at the back of the car, you do not have a rear windshield wiper. I know Gecko Wiper made a version of the aftermarket wiper for EV6. You EV6 owners will have to let me know down in the comments section. Do you have issues in the wintertime with just getting caked with road salt, grime, snow, all that kind of crap? I haven't been able to drive the car in the winter, so I don't really know. But this car does appear to have better aerodynamics to allow the air to kind of gently go over the roofline underneath the spoiler and then off the back of the car. Versus Ioniq 5, there's definitely much more of a significant brake, which is going to separate that airflow and prevent it from actually clearing anything from the window. So I would imagine this is more like a sedan where it's basically always clearing water off of it, but I could be wrong, let me know. EV6 does also have rear parking sensors. This one is kind of pointing on the side, so this, like my Ioniq 5, will automatically stop you if you're going to hit something from the side as well as reversing into something, which is kind of nice if you're into that. This does look like it's misaligned though. You can kind of see a hole in the bottom there, and the sensor is kind of covered in the top section. Let's look at the other side and see what that looks like. Looks like the same issue on the passenger side as well. Now, in terms of build quality, I did also notice some issues with the spoiler. So this right here is kind of loose. You can hear the tape stick, and then when I let go, it separates a little bit. Over here for this gap, I can't really get my pinky into it. Over on the driver's side though, it is much wider. I can get basically my entire pinky fingertip in there. And then this lower piece of trim is completely separating from the spoiler. And it's pretty obvious. I noticed it just walking along the side of the car. So build quality seems like it could be improved a little bit. I'm not sure if this car is being built in the US. Yes, this one was a Georgia build. So they seem to be having some quality issues here with the US made version. Same thing can be said about the US made Ioniq 5 though. So it takes some time to work out the bugs. Hopefully that gets fixed though. Before we get into the front seat, let's check out the back seat. So you do have these small little corner windows here. Door panel material in the back seat, hard plastic, a little bit of soft touch there. Kind of a brushed looking plastic there. You do have 2-stage heated rear seats, which is nice. This car does have the 14-speaker Meridian surround sound system. Sounds better than the Ioniq 5 Limited's sound system in my opinion. You do have fabric water bottle pockets in the doors, and they prevent items from rattling around and making too much noise. Nice to see that. That's very premium. Even the top trim Ioniq 5 doesn't have that. Door pulls are plastic. Of course, you've got a fully flat floor in the back seat because this is a battery electric vehicle. There is no need for a hump for a transmission tunnel. Seating material looks nice. It's their synthetic leather called Syntex. You've got the fold down armrest here with this weird feature where it kind of opens into just a big square, or you can have a couple cup holders. I do have cup holder enlargers available for the EV6, again, on my website. 3 different sizes, small, medium, and large. So, first things first, footroom. With the seat set for me at 6'2", not great. This is very similar. I remember in the EV6 GT, I could barely get my feet underneath that seat because I had it so low so that I did have decent headroom. But you can see here, I can't really get them under very far, which then leads to not a lot of thigh support because I have to have them tucked up closer than I would like. So for a long drive, for somebody of my height, I don't know if I would want to be back here too long. I could get away with an hour or two maybe, but I would probably opt to sit on the other side if somebody shorter were sitting in the front seat. If I move over into that seating position, I can get my feet much further out, get my size 13s underneath there, and then because of that, I do have much better thigh support, so that would be the move for me. You can see headroom back here. If I sit fully back, basically non-existent. My head is touching the ceiling just barely. If I had hair, it would really be into the ceiling. But if I do lean forward and shrug down a little bit, I've got maybe 1.5 inches. It's fine. But if you're over 6'3", you're gonna have a hard time back here. Got air vents, seat back pockets. I do hate this style that Kia seems to really like, where it's just a big piece of plastic. If you put something delicate in there, it's just gonna get squished. Don't be putting your marshmallows in there. But on the backs of the front seats, you do have USB-C ports, one on the driver's seat and one on the passenger seat. Nothing down here on the back of the center console. And then when you roll down the windows, they go completely down, which is nice if you want to rest your arms up here on a nice day. Like today, it's beautiful out. It's like 72 degrees out. Rear windows are double laminated, so it is fairly quiet, which is nice. Sitting in the center position, honestly, isn't too bad. You do have a dome light here in the back, which is nice. And then both passengers in the back have their grab handles, coat hanger on only the driver's side of the car. Passenger side does not have that. I would imagine it's for visibility reasons. If you squeeze that trigger for releasing the seats to fold down, you can also recline them a little bit. So that does help improve headroom a little bit. Not very much. It gave me about a finger's width of extra headroom when I'm sitting completely back, but you can fold it up into an upright position or lean it back a little bit. Now, a lot of people find the seat back design on Kia's cars a little weird. I do too, but I've heard from a lot of people, and this actually is kind of cool when you think about it. You could use this right here as kind of a coat hook. So say you got a light jacket, a big coat, just hang it on there, treat it like a coat rack, and then it's off the ground where it might be wet or whatever. Kind of a neat little tip from other Kia owners. You can see even the back seat door panels have some LED lighting in them, which is nice. There you can see the little porthole window. It's not very big. It's smaller than the palm of my hand, but it does help let in a little bit of light. The headrests in the back here are adjustable up and down in the outboard seats as well as the center seat. But yeah, that's about it for the back seat. Not an awful spot to be. Could be improved a little bit. All right, it's time to head into the business end of the EV6. So starting with the door panels, unlike the rear, you do have a soft upper here, which is nice and cushioned. Same with this bit here, the elbow rest, all nice and soft. Same trim as the back. You do have all your window switches and mirror controls here in the traditional place, which is nice. And would you look at this, an actually usable water bottle pocket in the door. So this is a pretty big, I believe 24-ounce water bottle, and it fits perfectly. Oh my God. Can't do this in my Ioniq 5. I might buy an EV6 just because of that. This is also that kind of fabric material like in the rear, so it's not going to rattle around making noise. There is the front door speaker, tweeter up top. I actually really like what they did with this black plastic. So this is just cheap plastic, but they kind of textured it like cement. It looks really cool. It's got all these little pits on it. Actually adds some visual interest to it, so I'm into that. Here is the driver's seat. Headrests in this car, really nice and cushy. They're very wide, so they really wrap around your head if you turn it side to side. I know people are going to say, oh, you're not supposed to rest your head on it. Well, it's there. I rest my head on it. Something I don't like, two-way lumbar, not four-way, so you can't adjust it up and down, but you have all your standard seat adjustments here. It's all electrically actuated. My biggest complaint with the seat in this car is this front edge. It kind of tapers down a little bit. My leg feels like it's always falling off, versus the Ioniq 5, it kind of goes up and around a little bit more, so it really feels like it's hugging you. This one is a little uncomfortable for me. The seat backs here do feel more comfortable for me versus the Ioniq 5, so in that regard, I do prefer these seats. The Ioniq 5 seats do seem very narrow. These are much deeper with a little bit taller of a bolster. You can see here on the GT line, you've got the brushed aluminum foot pedals. Maybe they're stainless steel, I don't really know. Trunk release, light controls. You can open up your charge port here, open up the trunk, electric parking brake, traction control, all your standard stuff. The steering wheel here is electrically actuated, which is not a feature that my Ioniq 5 has. I do really like that. So something I want to touch on is if you're a tall person, headroom in the EV6 isn't great. I've got like a finger and a half's width between the roof and the top of my head. Keep in mind this has the sunroof. Keep in mind this car does have the sunroof, so it cuts into headspace, but not great. If you're 6'3", 6'4", have a tall torso, it might be difficult to get into the EV6. I don't have this issue in the Ioniq 5 because that has a 2 or 3 inch higher roofline, so not a problem there, but just something to keep in mind. Overall seat comfort though, besides that little gripe I had with the left thigh support, is really good. Comfortable seating position, steering wheel is just the right length away for me. I do wish that the center console lid and the armrest on the door were about an inch higher, so that I could more comfortably rest my elbows on them, but not a big deal. So when you first get in the EV6, the first thing you're going to notice is the two-tone steering wheel with the offset Kia logo. That's going to drive some of you absolutely insane. I think it looks kind of neat. I think that's a brave choice to not center a car's logo on the steering wheel, so I kind of commend Kia for doing that. It's different, it's definitely unique. The button switchgear all feels really nice, knurled texture on this. You've got your paddle shifters on the back for adjusting your regen level. All the standard lighting, switchgear, wipers. The GT line does have the head-up display, which is crisp, clear, colorful, easy to read. I will say if you are wearing polarized glasses, it can be difficult to read. It's a little more faint, but it's still visible. Just keep that in mind if you wear polarized glasses that you might have a hard time seeing it. Dual 12.1 inch screens here for your driver display and infotainment display. This is running CCNC. It's responsive, it's easy to use, it looks decent in my opinion. I have a whole video deep dive into CCNC with my Ioniq 5. I'm not going to get into the details of it here in this video. That video is almost an hour long. I go over every setting in the car. There's going to be a few differences between Ioniq 5 and EV6, but nothing major. So if you want to see that, I will leave a link in the description below. Now, this screen here is one of the biggest differences between Ioniq 5 and EV6. It is this weird dual function touchscreen. So you can see here you have your standard Hyundai Kia controls for the screen up top. And then if you press this button here, it swaps to climate control. So I can dial in my temperature if I want, make changes there. And there's multiple settings for it. So right now I have it set that it can be swapped to climate, but then it automatically switches back to the standard buttons. If I want to change that, I can hold down this button for a few seconds. And then it gives me the option, return to the selected display when the other display times out. You can turn it off, or you can have it default to climate or default to this screen. So if I hold that again and say off, now if I swap to climate, it's going to stay on climate. If I want to go back to the other buttons, I have to actually press that. It's not going to time out and switch on its own. I'm not a big fan of it. I much prefer the way Hyundai does it, having two separate rows of buttons. I don't like having to switch between the two, but I'm sure EV6 drivers that are used to it don't mind it at this point, but I'm not the biggest fan. Moving on to the center console here, where it's kind of a floating fixture. You do have hard buttons for ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. That's two-stage, which is nice. Can turn that off because I don't need that today. Then you have your start-stop button right here, which I actually really like versus on the steering column, because you get in the car, you push that button, and then the shifter is literally right in your hand when you push that button, so you can quickly get going. So to go on the drive, foot on the brake, twist it to the right, twist it to the right for reverse, half a click to go into neutral, and then you can press the button in the center, P for park. You've got auto hold. You can turn on and off your parking sensors, and then you can pull up the 360-degree camera system, which allows you to kind of just float around the exterior of the car, which is really nice. You do have dual cup holders here. This one is decently sized. This front one can hold a standard small water bottle. If you want to put a large water bottle, like a 32 or 40 ounce up here, you're going to need to get a cup holder expander from my store. That just goes right there. You twist it into place. The little arms pop out. You can still use it for a smaller water bottle, and then you can go ahead and put your larger water bottle there. It's going to be nice and secure, right in arm's reach for those long drives where you might want some more water. This weird little square cup holder back here isn't very big. You can put like a soda can in there, but not much bigger than that. You've got a Qi wireless charging pad that you can charge your phone on. This is not great. And then you've got your armrest here, just a pretty big, deep storage. It is flocked with that soft kind of fabric material, so things aren't going to rattle around. Just a nice big opening. The armrest here does not latch into place. It's just friction fit. So you push it down and it just stays down. You can put it like 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. It just stays in every position that you want it to. Kind of interesting design there. Glove box opens with a push of this button, and then it just drops down. Very similar in size to the Ioniq 5, which I do like. You do have the little pocket on the door. You can fit a decent amount of stuff in there. Route planning in the EV6 is decent. You can see, even though I have other networks selected, it is still prioritizing Tesla because it does have the NACS port. You do pay a charging time penalty using Tesla's network. 14 minutes, 25 minutes, 22 minutes. You could do much quicker on, say, Ioniq or Electrify America. but it is prioritizing Tesla. You can see it's also saying to charge at 20%, 20%, 28%. It's not prioritizing lower charging values. When I first got into the EV6, I was super excited when I saw this, YouTube. Clicked on it after I activated Kia Connect and everything and got this message. I scanned the QR code, it doesn't do anything. So I reached out to Kia's PR people and they said that this is going to be removed in a future software update because things have changed and they're no longer going to offer it in the US. I know this is a feature that is in some other countries, but I guess we are not lucky enough to get it in the US for whatever business reason they decided on. Now the one to the right of it, which is called Entertainment, click on that. Looks like it should be games or something, but again, this link doesn't go anywhere, nothing I can do. But would really, really love to have YouTube in the car when I'm sitting and charging and can just pull up a video or something. That would really make the time go really quick. When I first got in the car, I wanted to change drive modes and I looked around. It wasn't here, wasn't up on the top of the steering wheel. It took me a good 30 seconds to find out that it was located right here at the center bottom of the steering wheel. And you press that button, you can change to Sport, My Drive, Snow, Eco, Normal, and then around the horn. I really like this material on the dashboard. It kind of looks like it's trying to emulate carbon fiber. It feels nice. It's pretty hard, but it's got a little bit of a soft touch to it. I just think it really kind of looks really high quality. Definitely boosts the interior appeal to me. Beyond that, there's just a lot of cheap black plastic throughout the car. Fairly boring looking. I do wish that this car had more light colors around it, but that's just my personal taste. The side view mirror shape caught me off guard the first time I went to look at it, because it doesn't really follow the shape of the mirror. It kind of juts out in that corner there. Kind of odd looking at first, but you get used to it. But the mirrors themselves are nice and large. I've driven some cars where they're just very small. You can't see a ton with them, but these ones are pretty good sized. So now that we've talked about the interior, I think it's time we took the EV6 out for a drive. So the first thing I noticed when driving the new Kia EV6 is how quiet it is. Now, I'll admit I don't have any seat time in the pre-refresh EV6 outside of the GT, which is the sporty version. So I don't really know if this was already this quiet from the get-go, but with the 2025 Ioniq 5, they did add more sound deadening. I got to double check and see if they did the same thing here on the EV6, but I imagine they did. It has double laminated front windows, rear windows, windshield, so it is pretty quiet in here when it comes to wind noise. The tires don't really come through all that much, which is really good. I'm in iPedal right now, and it feels just about the same as the Ioniq 5 that I daily drive. Can't complain about it. It's blended well, comes to a complete stop nice and smoothly. I am in eco mode right now, so acceleration is dulled a little bit, but when we get on the highway up here, I'm gonna put it into sport mode. So we'll go ahead, go into sport mode here. The battery temp is still a little high, so that might be a problem with getting full acceleration, but it'll still be a good idea of just how quick this thing can be. All right, we're punching it. It's definitely dulled a little bit, but as you can see, still plenty of power. So now that we're on the highway, we will activate Highway Drive Assist, give you guys a sense of how this does on the highway. One of the biggest differences between this and the 2025 Ioniq 5 is the fact that this doesn't have the forward driver attention infrared camera system, which is having all sorts of issues interacting with people's sunglasses, glasses improperly, and giving false positives, turning the system off when it does detect that you aren't looking at the road, even though you are. So this is strictly touch-based. It is a capacitive steering wheel. So all you really have to do is rest a couple fingers on it and it knows that you're there. You don't have to actually torque the steering wheel at all. And I have found in these 400 plus miles that the system does work quite well. Lane centering is really good. Adaptive cruise control is also really good. It's more responsive when a car moves out of the way now versus the older system in the pre-refresh cars. The center console here as well is a little intrusive for my liking. It does kind of hit my knee a little bit, which I'm not crazy about. But highway driving, pretty smooth. The suspension is fairly tight. but it is comfortable. I'm gonna go into normal mode now. So we're off the highway now. Gonna do a little back road driving. Again, very quiet in here. Now this road is pretty well paved, but back in Boston I did drive on some pretty rough pavement, and it does get a little abrasive at times because it is a little bit of a firmer suspension. But now we're on my favorite twisty road here, so we'll have a little bit of fun for a couple minutes. The steering wheel is kind of an odd shape. It's kind of flat on the top, and the bolsters up here are really thick. You can definitely tell it's more of a sporty designed car versus the Ioniq 5. This definitely drives more like a sedan than a small crossover. Classifying this as a crossover is a real stretch to me. To me, it's a hatchback, but they're gonna market it however they wanna market it. But it takes those turns like nothing, nice and level, not too much body roll. Yeah, it's a fun car to drive. Definitely sportier than the Ioniq 5. So if that's what you're after, you're definitely gonna get that with the EV6. Let's hop back on the highway. Take that turn, having some fun, and back up to speed. So if you are shopping for an EV6, you probably like sportier cars, so you're probably gonna like the layout of the driver's seat here with everything kind of focused on the driver. All the controls point towards you. All the materials in here, the dark colors, everything just screams sports car, except for on the steering wheel here, you have some lighter color accents, and on the door panels down here. The ambient lighting throughout the cabin looks really nice. I think they did a better job in here than they did with the Ioniq 5. The Ioniq 5 is lacking a little bit. The head-up display projects your speed, navigation, media, all that kind of information up on the windshield, so you can concentrate on the road ahead instead of looking down. My favorite part about driving the EV6 or any eGMP platform vehicle is the adjustable paddle shifters for regen on the back of the steering wheel. So much fun to play around with. You've got auto mode if you kind of want a more hands-off approach. But all in all, I love driving this car. A lot of fun. So yeah, those are my first impressions on driving the EV6. I really like the way it rides. So yeah, if you want a little bit sportier version of the Ioniq 5, the EV6 is probably the right choice. So after a week with the Kia EV6, I am pleasantly surprised. Despite it being smaller than the Ioniq 5 and just more sporty styling, which has never really been my favorite thing in the world, I'm surprised how much I like this car. I think Kia did a great job updating it for the 2025 model year. 2026s will be out relatively soon, so we'll see what kind of changes are happening there. They should be announcing those changes pretty soon. But yeah, overall, this car really blends the sedan driving feel of the Ioniq 6 with some more of the utility and crossoverishness of the Ioniq 5. So I feel like it splits the difference between those two cars really well. So yeah, if you're in the market for a small electric crossover, do yourself a favor, test drive an EV6, test drive an Ioniq 5. You're gonna find that they're very similar in a lot of ways, but also very different in a few key areas. So anyway, guys, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Check out my store for all sorts of accessories for the 2025 Kia EV6. Again, that is ioniqguy.com. Consider becoming a channel member for 99 cents per month. For $3 per month, you can gain early access to all these videos, as well as a 5% discount to my store. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.